Good evening, and welcome to the Authentic Joe Show. I'm Jolena Johnson, your host. My first name is Joe, and my middle name is Lena. Lena means love, Joe means love, and Lena means light. And I'm here to hopefully bring you some love and light on this broadcast and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a hot topic, contemporary romance. And I'm talking about Black contemporary romance. I don't know about you, but when I was young, I loved to read, and I was never into Harlequin romances or anything, but I knew some people who looked at them, who read them, and I was too young for that anyway. But these are no longer the Harlequin days. It's a much, much different picture now, and I can't wait to learn more. So I would like to welcome our guest, Novelist Marlee Rae. Hi there, Marlee Rae. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jolena?
Good. See, I mentioned Harlequin before you were on camera.
I heard you.
Okay, well, I need to get this Facebook feed started, so give me a second because I don't want to interrupt our time here. So give me 1 second. I'm not seeing the post. So there it is. Okay, just 1 second. Let me edit the privacy. And okay, we should be live on Facebook. So I want to welcome everyone who's watching us now on Facebook and everyone who's catching us on YouTube. And I want to thank everybody who's going to catch us on the rebroadcast. We're so happy to be here. And we're going to put a link if you would like to come into the stream at some point and ask any questions of Marlee Rae. We'd be happy to. So Marlee Rae, may I read your bio before I ask you any questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, Marlee Rae is a reader and writer. She started reading books as a child, but never had aspirations of writing until she was well into adulthood. She loves escaping the real world and creating romantic, realistic fantasies focused on Black love. When she's not reading or writing, her interests include decorating, baking, and traveling. She dreams of one day living on an island near the beach during the winter months. Her favorite thing to do is spend quality time with family and friends. During downtime, she can be found reading, chatting on the phone, or indulging in whimsical nail polishes. Marlee Rae resides in the St. Louis metropolitan area. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. So Marlee Rae, can you tell us, I've read your books and I think they're fantastic. And so can you tell us what is contemporary romance? And then you write about Black people. So can you tell us specifically what it is and why you chose it?
So contemporary romance is really, it's of course romance with love and all of that, what you're used to, but the contemporary spin adds more current day vibes to it. So anything that's current, that's happening in society right now, you will find in a contemporary book. I specifically write contemporary romance, but I write contemporary Black romance. So I focused on people that look like me because that's what I dream in. So I write fiction books, and when I daydream, I dream about people that look like me. And for so long, we didn't have that, especially growing up. I didn't have books that had, African Americans as the center. So it's something that I thought was definitely a good thing to write about and to provide information and entertainment just for us.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you. Although I've spent over the last decade in books, writing, publishing, and things like that, this is the first time I've had any guests come on and talk about one of my favorite things to do, which is to read, or two of my favorite things to read and to write. So I'm so excited. I read your first novel, and it's so interesting because you've already written 5 novels and you have one coming out at the end of the month.
Yes, next month. Yep.
Okay, so how long is it taking you? Because that's a lot of productivity in this short period of time. So was it like 4 years ago that you released your first book?
It was at the beginning, maybe April of 2018 was the first novel.
Okay, so not even 5 years ago. Okay, outstanding. And so you have written 2 series. So your first series was Something About Love series.
Correct.
Okay. And that follows 3 successful women through love, life, trauma, and everything else that comes along during the midlife season. Set in St. Louis, Dawn, Tori, and Janae uncover their personal strengths and weaknesses. The love interests they find along the way won't always be pretty, but it will take them to new depths of passion and pleasure.
Yes.
Oh, so Stevie. Okay, so so can you just tell us a little bit? Were Don, Tori, and Janae, were those just fictional characters made up in your head, or did you base them on people you know, or just tell us a little bit about that series and the characters.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll kind of back up. I started writing really after my mom passed. So it was really a way, a healing. It was therapeutic for me. So
Okay.
that's how I started with the first book. Um, After I wrote the first book, the characters kind of kept talking, so I just kind of kept writing.
Okay.
And they all of the characters that were in the first book, I just kind of elaborated on them in the books after that in the series. But I just wanted to write something about, I was in, of course, early 40s when my mom passed. And I was like, yeah, life looks different at this time in life. I noticed everything was different from middle 40s from when I was in my 20s. So I wanted to write about the experiences that I've gone through, as well as people that I know, family and friends, just all of the things that go on when you're in your mid 40s. And in particular, love. Love looks a lot different than it does, when you're 25 versus when you're 40 or 45. You're looking at a whole lot different things, and different things are happening. You have parents passing away, you have divorces, you have, the children are grown, and you have blended families. It's a lot that's going on when you're in your 40s. So I just wanted to write from the perspective of someone in their 40s about love and what it looks like, as well as the things that we go through on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So it's fiction,
Yes.
but the genre is contemporary romance with the emphasis on Black people. So
Yes.
that was important. As you said in the introduction, you said you wanted to write about people like yourself, and
Yes.
there's just not enough of it. And so I love that
Yes.
you're filling in that gap. Now, the contemporary part, as you've explained it to me, I believe means that it's in current times.
Yes. Yes.
And
So it's very relatable.
okay, that's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. So when you say it's based on your hometown, did you ever answer my question about the main characters? Were those just out of your head, or did you kind of
Now,
base
see,
them?
I tried to skip over that, but see, you're gonna bring that back. But
That's right.
so I will say the very first book was definitely when I sat down and I started writing the book. I said, well, I don't want to change characters. I want her to have the same personality. And because this is the first time I was writing and I was just kind of doing it, I said, okay, why don't you use your own personality? So whatever happens in the book, it will be consistent. Because I didn't want her to just be, kind of all over the place. So I said, whatever happens, just use whatever you would do in that instance. And that way the story will be consistent. So the first character in the first book is 100% my personality. I mean, 100%. So from there, with the next book, I loosely based it on a couple of my friends of their personalities, and when I say loose, I do mean loose. So but the first one was definitely 100% my personality because I wanted to stay true to the character. And since it was my first book, I wasn't quite sure how to do that. So I said, okay, whatever questions or whatever problems come up, put yourself in a situation. What would you do? So that's kind of how it happened. But everything is definitely fiction. But of course, different things that happen in life, different things that I see friends go through, and just different things that I experience and that I'm exposed to. Oh, you might find it in a book.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I mean, I think the first book, I think I read it in maybe 2 days. Because I'm an avid reader and I had never read anything like it because, as a book coach and things like that, I have been working in nonfiction. Okay. So, I don't remember the last time I read a book like that, probably 20 years before. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then you were talking about being in St. Louis, our mutual hometown, and, just some of the places you went and then the conversations. And I think, did you bring some baked goods over to him or something like that? I mean, did she?
Yeah, she did. She did. She did.
So I was really excited about it. So I just want to say, if you are interested in reading some great hot stuff, I think you need to contact Marlee Rae. And the way you can reach her is her website site is Marlee Rae Reads and Writes, spelled the way her name is on screen. Let me move this so they can see your name. And let's see. Okay, so they can see that. And then Marlee Rae on Facebook, spelled the way it is on the screen. And then also Marlee Rae Writes, and that is the way you can reach her on Instagram. So we'll make sure that we have this in the information after the video is posted, but I just want you all to know that. Okay, so what do we need to know about the Something About Love series? So what can readers expect? What's been some of the feedback or some of the things that people have told you? Because obviously it worked very well. There are 3 books in that series.
Yes.
Okay. So just tell us what are the titles? Just tell us a little bit. Let's see. Dawn is the first one. So what's that book title?
So the first book is titled Something Old, Something New. And what happens, or I guess briefly, Dawn really encounters a guy that she's like someone she's never met before. But of course, as soon as she falls for him, someone else comes into the picture, and she kind of has to make a choice. And of course, that a lot of times happens when you finally think, okay, this is it. Then someone else comes and, put a little something on your mind. So yeah, so she has to make a choice. Meanwhile, she's also healing from a tragic family situation. So she has a lot going on. So, and she's choosing between 2 very important people in her life. But so that's loosely what that one is about.
Okay.
The second book is called, and that's the Something Old, Something New. So the second book is Something New, Something Borrowed.
Okay.
Yes, that deals with infidelity, hence the something borrowed. So so you deal with Tori, and she's choosing between a new guy who she's not necessarily, he's good for her, but he's not necessarily the normal type that she goes for. So you know how some at certain ages we get stuck into, oh, he's got to be this type, as opposed to you like him, you just go with it. That's it, run with it. That's it. But she's kind of torn between him, and then there's a new guy. There's a guy that's kind of borrowed, if you will. But I won't give it away. But so the borrowed is definitely dealing with infidelity, and of course, that's something that happens. That's not it's contemporary. It's something that goes on all the time. So I definitely wanted to touch on that as well.
Okay, so can I interrupt for one moment? I have a question. Sure. So since we already have so much trauma and stress, why would we want to read about it too?
It's everything. It doesn't make you upset. I like to write fiction, but I also like to have doses of reality in there. So of course, even though, let's say, things may turn out great, things may be wonderful in your life, you really can't build character without having bad things happen. Nobody becomes successful or a great person without having some type of tragedy or some type of stress or something in their life. You just wouldn't be who you are today without it. So I think it's important to definitely include the highs and lows of relationships in life in the book, even though it's a fictional book, because it makes it more realistic.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So the third book, which is Something New, Something Blue, that kind of focuses on the character's named Janae, and in this book she's not really choosing between a guy, but the guy that's in the book is kind of going through a midlife crisis, and he's kind of he's confident, but then he has insecurities, so it's kind of a bit of a roller coaster with them. Maybe she likes me, she doesn't like me, I think I have to have a certain amount of money to get her, she's this, she's that. And so it's kind of like the insecurities that you deal with when you're in midlife. Did I take the right path? Did I do enough? Am I good enough where I am? Just the kind of things that you think about that really, it doesn't hit you until you're, in those 40s and you're like, ooh, now maybe I should have did something a little different at 25. But so that's kind of what that relationship is about.
Okay, excellent. So let me ask, when you were writing these books and when you're continuing to write, are you interviewing others? Are you researching? Are you just coming up? How are you How are you coming up with your material, or is it from personal experience?
It's a combination. I mean, it's a I rarely, the only time I will do, like, let's say, really ask someone something, or if there's an interview, unless there's like a topic where I'm like, okay, I need to know specifically about this particular job. So let's say, for instance, with the first book, the love interest, he's in the Navy. Okay, I've not gone to the service, so there were certain things that I didn't know about being in the military that I didn't want to get wrong, in the book. So
Mm-hmm.
I asked, I have a cousin who's in the military, who's retired from the military, a friend who's retired from the military, and then another friend whose husband is active in the military. So I kind of like, hey, I need to ask a question about X, Y, and Z. So when it comes to their jobs and things like that, if I'm not familiar with it, I will definitely ask people. But as far as relationship wise, oh, that's, yeah, I got that down. Don't, yeah, that's not a problem.
Awesome. I love it. And we have a comment from Nyrita Baker Bradford. She says, "Good evening, ladies. Enjoying the show. I always have to shout her out because she's not only my sorority sister mama, she was also my eighth grade English teacher. And Rayanne and I have a personal connection with her. And I just want to say it makes such a difference. I know she's so proud. She's just so proud of her girls.
Like,
And
hi, Miss Bradford.
yes. So we have to definitely say that. Okay, so this is fantastic. Okay, so then you finish with that series. So I do want to touch on something. I don't want to make you sad, but I think it's very important.
Okay.
Oftentimes we do express ourselves because of our personal experiences. So as you said, your mom had passed and you decided to start writing. And so that proved to be a healthy outlet for you. So, what would you say to people? Because we all have stresses and we all have challenges. What would you say about the healing effects of getting things out when you're grieving and you're healing?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I think that everybody heals and they grieve differently.
Mm-hmm,
So you have to find what works for you.
mm-hmm,
And for a long time, it took me 2 years before I actually really started. I maybe a year and a half before I actually started writing.
mm-hmm.
But the first portion of the healing part for me was actually reading.
Yes.
So, which is why I do the Marlee Rae reads and writes, because the reading was very helpful for me. Because when my mom passed, I didn't sleep at night,
Mm-hmm,
so I couldn't watch TV because the commercials. I had to think about it doing this. So I had to find an activity that I could do where I was completely engrossed in it.
yes.
So I would read. I would stay up for hours and hours every night and read. And after a while, I would run out of books to read. So I'm like searching Amazon, I'm searching everywhere because, of course, I wanted to read books about me, with
Mm-hmm,
people that look like me. So
mm-hmm,
I kind of stumbled upon this complete whole like universe of independent Black authors. And, just kind of fell in love with the process and the books and everything. So probably for the first year and a half of the grieving process, I read books. I mean,
mm-hmm,
every single day. I read and read and read, and then finally it kind of shifted over into, well, hey, I got a story to tell too. So I
mm-hmm.
want to, I just like, I'll try my hand at it and see what happens.
I think that's absolutely fantastic, and I
Mhm.
highly recommend if you're going through any challenge in life. I highly recommend journaling. And you never know; it could turn into a book. But first and foremost, it's so important to have an expression, especially during times of grief. And so I'm so glad that you were able to do this. I remember being a young child, and just things going on in the household, and I would read the Laura Ingalls novels. That's what I
Mhm.
had my hands on. And so I would just read and read and read whatever I could get my hands on. I remember going to the hardware store with my dad. And it was boring in the hardware store. It wasn't like Home Depot or Lowe's now. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah.
hardware stuff. And I would stand in line and I would look at the little horoscope books and I would look at the Reader's Digest, whatever was right there when you're in the checkout line. I would just read as much as I could when I was in the line because I just
Mhm.
love reading so much. So I think it's so valuable that you are expressing yourself and you've given us some true treasures to enjoy. So thank you for that. Miss Narita Baker Bradford says she's grinning like a chess cat. And Dora says, yes, everyone grieves and heals differently. The key is finding that thing that will ease you through your process. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, right,
Okay. And if you're trying to find some of these books, you can go to Marlee Rae readsandwrites.com and you will see all of the information.
right. And Amazon.
Oh, and Amazon.
Yeah,
All right.
Amazon.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you see her name so you can just look up Marlee Rae and you'll be able to find her books. Okay. So now we have a brand new series and you have 2 books already out in the new series. And then the third one is coming out at the end of February. And this series is called the Love Movement series. And before I tell you all anything about it, the first one is called Slick. Well, it's 3. They're not necessarily in order, right? So it's
that you can. They're not. They all happen concurrently, so you can read them in any order you want. Yes.
Okay. So
but that's just how the first one is the one. Slick is the first one that I wrote down.
Yes. Okay. So we have Slick, and then we have Wet. And then we have the new one that's coming out, which you're going to say. So this is Slick. Yes. This is the most hot stuff we've had on the Authentic Joe show. I did it too quick. This is Wet. Okay, so let's go back to something. Let's talk about Wet for a second. So you have a hot chocolate man, and you have water, and you have scuba diving. What is the significance of the scuba diving to this story?
So this particular character, his name is Dale. Dale is a member of NABS, which is a National Association of Black Scuba Divers, which is it's a real organization. So he's a member in the DC chapter. So and he's been with NABS for many, many years. So that's his pastime. So that's the significance of it. His love interest is also in NABS, and they kind of reconnect later in life. They're in NABS when they were really young, and both continued on. I think the heroine, she kind of fell off, but when she rejoins the chapter, now they're in their 40s, they kind of start something up. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And I love it. You're talking about scuba diving, and that is a theme. In each of these 3 books, you have a particular sport or hobby or something that they're doing. And so that particular one is scuba diving. Now, a lot of people will say, well, do Black people scuba dive?
They do. They have a full organization with chapters in every city, so they absolutely scuba dive. So I just wanted to highlight that just to show that, we do different things. We're great at different things. We're diverse when it comes to, sports and activities. Don't box us into specific things. We can do everything, and we're fantastic at it. So, and also to give people options like, hey, I didn't know about that. Maybe it's something I want to try. They can kind of Google NABS and see what it's all about. They can see pictures of them scuba diving, going underwater, and just all kind of stuff. It's fascinating. So I just like to bring it to light and just kind of, because that's not the kind of stuff that you see on the news. Or if you go look in a magazine, you're not going to see NABS necessarily in the magazines on a regular basis. But just to give, some of the things that we do more, just highlight it. I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so that's National Association
of Black Scuba Divers.
Black Scuba Divers. I'm putting it in so everybody can know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have a desire to go scuba diving because I'm not very good at swimming. And I did take lessons twice in my life and it didn't work out. But I do enjoy being in the pool. I do enjoy pool activities. However, being in the ocean and doing scuba diving is not necessarily my cup of tea, but I would certainly go on vacation and watch other people do it.
Right. It's not my cup of tea either, but I think it's fantastic. I think, one of my friends, her mother is in the Jersey chapter of NABS. And, I see pictures of her, completely underwater. They follow sharks. They do it all. And I think it's fantastic. So I love it. Now, I don't do it, but I love it. And I support it.
Yes. Okay. And you said it's set in Washington, D.C. and you have lived in the Washington, D.C. area like I have. So you're familiar with it. So I love that. And so if you're watching this because you've read one of Marlee Rae's books or you haven't yet, and or you're interested in writing, think about when you're writing and you're telling stories, you need to talk about what you know about and what you've
Mhm.
experienced and what you are can be imaginative about. And so she's very fortunate to be very fantasy driven, and she can get these out. I mean, it's like it's amazing. You would think that she's actually experienced every single thing because they're so realistic and so hot at the same time. Like I'm almost embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, that happened. Oh, that was so cute. Oh, that's so nice the way she put those words together. I mean, it's just like it's just beautiful. And especially because I know you personally, I just chuckle when I think that Marlee Rae wrote this, and I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
what's up there.
you mean the dessert part?
Woo! Anyway, so we have more commentary. Narita Baker Bradford says both books are a must read from start to finish. So she's talking about the first two books in the second series, and the next book we're going to talk about is Slick.
Yes.
Okay, and so Slick is from the Love Movement series, as we
Mhm.
talked about, and I see skis, but I also see a beautiful brown chest.
Oh, yes.
So, so let me see. It says Malcolm Slick Montgomery dominates the mountains and commands the legal world. He perfectly balances both sides of his unique family life because he's known for taking care of those he loves at any cost. The only thing he hasn't found is true love. Tia Tweet Phillips is a young firecracker determined to chart her own course in this world without help from anyone, especially her family. She has placed her love life on hold while she pursues her career goals. When the pair meet on the ski slopes, will they proceed? When they figure out they are in different stages of life, will he be able to capture her, or will she stay on her original path? This is so exciting. Okay, so tell us about skiing because I see skiing here and we talked about that. So tell us a little bit about skiing and what this is about.
So one of the reasons I wanted them to have skiing as their hobby was because I just love to see Black people on skis. It's fantastic, and I wanted to highlight NBS, which is National Brotherhood of Skiers.
Okay.
And ironically, this year is the 50-year anniversary. So NBS was started in 1973, and this year is the 50-year anniversary. So they have summits every year. Every Most of the larger cities have ski chapters that are up under the umbrella of NABS. I'm sorry, not NABS, NBS. So I wanted to highlight the summits that they have in the different cities and things like that. So Tweet and Malcolm meet at a summit that is in Steamboat, Colorado. And I wrote that one because I usually go to the summits most years, but I went to the one in Steamboat. So I definitely wanted to highlight because Steamboat, Colorado is one of my favorite places where they've had the summit at in the past. So I wanted to highlight just everything that goes on there. It's such a dynamic week that goes on at the ski summit. You have everybody is skiing, you have from beginners to, black diamond riders, you have concerts, gospel concerts, a parade, happy hours. I mean, it is fantastic. And it's a week-long celebration
Mhm.
of skiing. I mean, it is fantastic. I think this year for the 50th anniversary, I believe there are over like 1,500 registered guests. So it's in a couple of weeks. I'm going and I am excited.
Well, that's one in my back in my past life. I actually went to one of the ski summits and it was tremendous. I happened to be with the company I work for. I was the sponsor, and I just could not believe all the activities. And that's when I was what I guess in my early 30s or something. And
Mhm.
I just my mind was blown. So it's very 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 exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Mel asked, "Were we going to talk about Marlee's first series?" We have been talking. We just talked about it. So Mel, you might have to watch it on the rebroadcast because we just talked about it, and now we're in the second series.
Hmm.
Okay, so you mentioned Black Diamond. So can you
Hmm.
tell us what Black Diamond is?
Well, that's something that I don't do, but I can. Yeah, so that's a very skilled skier. So you are definitely at the top of the mountain somewhere I've never been. I stay on the smaller slopes. So yes, that's someone who skis very, very well if they're on the black slopes. So
Yes, and
yeah.
Malcolm Slick Montgomery was hanging out, I believe, on the green and the blue slopes trying to find some ladies, and then he ran into Tia.
Right. Well, well, if you're on the black, you have to come down. So you're gonna eventually run down into the amateurs. So that's kind of where he found her, like on the side of the mountain. She had fallen, and it kind of
Mhm.
goes from there. But
Yes.
I will say that the books also, even though this is a second series and it is set in the Washington D.C. area,
Hmm.
it is a spinoff of the first series. So the character in Slick, which would be Tweet or Tia,
Hmm.
she's actually from St. Louis. So she was in the second book, and by the time this series came about, she had moved to the Washington D.C. area. So
Mm.
a lot of the characters you will still see, like in Slick, you'll still see a lot of the characters from the first series.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yolanda Jordan said Marlee Rae is an excellent skier and writer. You
Now
know,
she's trying to be funny.
is she being funny? Is she being funny about the ski part?
About the ski part, because everybody knows I fall off the lift at least one time every time we go skiing.
At least you go skiing, Rand. Marlee Rae. Let me just say that my first time skiing, I was in Utah. I was at
Mhm.
what do you call that? Park City.
Park City, yeah.
Hmm. And I got on the skis and I was on the bunny slope and I was standing next to all the kids and they were like, "Okay, do this." And everybody was like this tall or lower to me. And I started going down and that was it.
Yeah.
I got on the skis and I never looked back.
Yeah, you got to take a lesson first. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, we have another. Oh, look at Dr. Candy says, I think this needs to be a movie already. I
I,
totally agree.
I agree. I am with you, Dr. Candy.
Okay, so whatever we need to, whoever's watching this, contact Marlee Rae, okay? And then tell them you saw her on the Authentic Joe show, so maybe she'll let me come and hang out on the set, okay? All right,
Right.
so we need this to truly be a series. I love it. Okay, so you said Malcolm Slick Montgomery is an attorney. So
Mhm.
why was it important to give him that type of position in life?
It wasn't that it was important. I would say that I'll always give my characters something that suits who they are.
Yes.
And because of his personality, he really had no choice but to be that. And if you
Hmm.
read the book, you'll kind of understand why he went into the field,
Yes.
But
Hmm.
I go by the person's character and the things that I feel that they're gonna say or
Hmm.
the things that they're gonna do, and I kind of base their careers off of that. So
Excellent.
he's a true alpha male. He's
Yes.
dominant. So he is, like a beast in a courtroom. So he really, he couldn't really be an accountant. His personality is too big for that. He
Hmm.
couldn't. He has to be somewhere where he is taking care of business. And
Yes.
and again, once you read the book, you'll see the necessity of him being an attorney when you meet the rest of his family.
Yes,
So
yes, and I was gonna read from the book, and then I said I can't do that. I cannot look the first chapter, his first activities, how we first met him. I was just like it says, hot contemporary romance featuring Black characters. You just gotta look at it yourself. You just gotta read it. You just gotta get the books, okay?
well, his first activity was an activity. He was skiing.
No, he was not.
Oh, that was a metaphor, Jolena. Yes, he
Oh,
was. Yes, he was.
see, I'm too literal.
Absolutely, he was. Yeah, he was skiing. Yes. So
He just wasn't on the slopes.
no, he was.
Oh,
He
do I need
was.
to get my book? I'm talking
Go
about.
go right ahead. I will explain every drop to you and tell you what he was doing. Yeah.
Okay, well, I will just say the part where he was she saved me. Look, this is what she said. She said that was an awesome metaphor. I defer.
Right. Miss Bradford has spoken.
And this is Mel's comment. And Miss Lula Mae Gordon, who is one of our most loyal fans, says, I'm watching, love reading books. Got to get this book. Miss Lula Mae, now don't get mad at me when you read this. Okay, it's kind of hot. So, all that. Okay, fantastic. Now, I am so excited because we have the world premiere of the book cover for the third book, which is called Ride. And I'm
Yeah.
noticing the Lincoln Monument in the background. I see a horse, a saddle, some gloves, and the city in the bottom. I think it's fantastic. So, can you tell us about this book? Because I don't have a write up about it.
Okay, so neither do I. So
But the book is written and the
the
cover
book,
is
I just pushed the end on Saturday morning. Okay,
here. It's
so
so
this book,
exciting.
yes, this book is very raw, but
Mhm.
it is finished. It is I'll go back and probably tweak some of it, but the actual plot and the premise of the book is that part. It is done.
Okay.
So this book is the lead characters will be Bass Reeves as well as Winnie.
Okay.
They both own horses, and it takes place in the DC area, and they both meet because they live in an equestrian subdivision. So, yeah, so
Is that based on something real? Is there an equestrian subdivision in the DC area?
absolutely,
I just
absolutely.
never got an invitation.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There is an equestrian subdivision there, and everybody over there looks like you and me, baby.
Okay, well, I need to go visit.
Yes. So that is where they live. So he's kind of seen her riding her horse through the trails on the subdivision, and she's seen him as well. So, and they're just kind of flirting and everything. So they finally kind of meet. And he is a Bass. He is a true bachelor. I mean, at 100% bachelor. He's never been married. He doesn't have any kids, and he enjoys his life the way it is. So she's also never been married, and she doesn't have children either. But when they meet, she is gonna take him on a ride. Really, they both are. I mean, it's a lot going on. It's so many layers. That's all I can say. It's a bunch of layers. It's a whole bunch of stuff to unpack. She he trains horses for a living as well as he's a day trader. And she is the director of a youth advocate program where she helps advocate for children in the DC foster system.
Okay.
So, yes, it's a lot happening in this book. I mean, a lot. So,
So would you say this is maybe your most dynamic or one of your most dynamic books to date or steamiest? What would be three words you would use to describe this book?
whew, exhausting. Um, exhausting would be one. I would say passionate.
Okay.
And the last one is I guess the word is it's a bit of, I would say, compassion. There's a lot of compassion in the book. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, author Bailey West says, such a beautiful cover and amazing story. So I have a feeling she has a little insight into Ride.
She
Okay.
does. She absolutely does. That Bailey, that's my girl, and she is the one she really really helped me when we first started writing. She writes phenomenal um, fiction novels and romance novels as well, and she really, like, if I'm stuck or something, I
Mhm.
call her and we talk it out. I'm like,
Excellent.
okay, my character is doing this, and I want them to do this, but she's like, nope, can't do it. You got to go with what the characters want to do. So it's really nice to have somebody to, say, no, you can't. That doesn't sound right,
Yeah.
or that
Yes.
doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Okay. Well, very good. Well, listen, if anyone wants to join the party and ask your favorite author, Marlee Rae, any questions, you are welcome to join the StreamYard link. It is in the chat. So you can click on and we'll have you in before we wrap up the interview. I just want to give you that opportunity. So it is there. I want to thank you all for watching. If you're watching on the live broadcast, I'm speaking to contemporary romance novelist Marlee Rae, who writes Black stories, modern day Black fantasy that is truly amazing and relatable. And I can say that truly because I've read her books and I very much admire her work and what she is up to. If you're watching on the rebroadcast, please like the show, please share the show, and please go to Amazon or her website, Marlee Rae reads and writes.com, and get the books. She has 5 books, 3 in the first series, 2 out in the second series, and the third one is coming at the end of February. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Ride. So we have about 30 days. So get ready. So you need to get those other books so you'll be ready. They don't necessarily have to be read in order for the last series.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's not out yet. So get the other two so you'll be ready for Ride. Um, JJS says, "What's next? Is there a new series coming? Oh my gosh, does she know something I don't know? Do you have another series in the works?"
She might know a little something. I do. So I have a couple of things I'm that I'm working on, but for I want to do Bailey West and I we want to do a collaboration, but we've been kind of trying to get it together for the longest. It's going to happen at some point.
Okay.
But for my books, I do have another series in mind, and that's going to switch back over to the St. Louis area, and it's going to focus on a the first book. There was three sisters that the hero had, so they're going to focus on his sisters.
Okay.
So, and it's going to be. I'm excited about that series as well, because the sisters are going to they're going to own a spice store.
Mhm.
So it's and each sister is going to have a different area that they work with. Like one is going to possibly work with honey, the other's going to work with sugars, and one's going to work with spices. And I'm gonna get all that goodness all mixed up with it. So
Oh, I love it. I love it.
you already know how that's gonna happen.
I
What's gonna
love
happen
it.
with those things?
Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, let's get to the business of books. So we're excited about the books, okay? But let's get to the business of books, because a lot of people are very curious when they meet with writers or they rewrite. They want to write too, but they're a little afraid. So, are you a full-time writer?
No, 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 no.
Do you recommend that anyone choose to be a full-time writer? I know what I would say.
Well, let me say this.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the women and the people that that are in like the indie group who write, a lot of them write full time,
Mhm.
and they make a lot of money. So
Mhm.
no, 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 it is very lucrative. So
Depending on your
yes,
genre, depending
yes,
on your genre.
absolutely,
So
yeah.
if you are writing contemporary romance and things like that, things that are very entertaining, oftentimes people are very excited about that. If you're
Hmm.
writing about practical everyday things, people are not necessarily excited. There are about 10,000 books that are published every single week. So
Hmm.
I don't want to discourage people. I just want to say, get around some people like Marlee Rae just said. She has a book writing, a fellow author who can encourage her and pushes her and gives her wisdom, guidance, and simply support and love in those moments where she's, like trying to make a decision. And I think that's very important when you're writing, and it's also important in life. So, join some groups, get some information, don't quit your day job, and then
No,
let's see what happens.
yeah, definitely don't do that right away. No, I wouldn't recommend that now.
Yes, yes. And then Narita Baker Bradford says the theme is important too. Absolutely, absolutely. And so as you talked about, we featured scuba diving, we featured skiing, and we featured equestrian or horseback riding
Hmm.
in these last three novels. And I think that's amazing, because I don't know how many people think, oftentimes when people go on vacation, they'll say, we're going to go to the same place. We'll go to Jamaica, or we'll do this, or go, what about going and doing some adventures? What about,
Hmm.
trying something new that's really accessible? So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone if they're trying to start a writing career in your genre? What would you say? Three pieces of advice.
Just write the book. Whatever's in your mind, just write the book. That's the beauty of fiction. You
Mhm.
can write whatever you want. You can create a city. You can create whatever you want. There are no rules when it comes to fiction writing.
Mhm.
So you have no limitations. So the advice is just whatever story you have, write the story and see what happens. That's all you can do.
Okay. What's number two?
Number two is don't question the characters. Whatever the characters tell you to write, write the write what they want you to write. It's kind of like I always tell people when I'm writing, it's like a movie is playing in my head or in my mind, and I'm just transcribing. That's all I'm doing. I'm just
Mhm.
writing what I see is happening.
Mhm.
But if I try to diverge from that and say, "Oh no, I think I wanted to do this," the story stops. Literally, the story
Mhm.
goes away, and I'm stuck. But
Mhm.
it's because I've gone off course.
Mhm.
So whatever the story is, just write what the story is telling you. Don't diverge from the plot or whatever the story is in your mind.
Okay.
Always go with your first mind.
Very good. All right. And the third piece of advice.
Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to, because some things you may want to write about and you're like, oh, I'm not sure how people are going to receive it. Just do it. And that's, I think that's one of the first things that I kind of ran into with my first novel was that, I was like, oh, I gotta write a sex scene. That's kind of, now I do not care. I put it all on the paper.
You sure do.
Because guess what? Everybody does it. So, it's like, why not talk about it? Might even learn some tips in there. Hey, everybody does it. Why not? So
Can you
whatever
see me
it is,
blushing?
yeah, I know. So it's like, hey, get it out there, write whatever. I'm like, if it's if it's something that's maybe a little salacious or something that may not, that may make someone blush, don't be afraid because that's what the people want. I'm telling you, that is what the people want. They may say they don't, but they read, and that's the first chapter they go to. Where the sex at?
I love it. Okay, so this is fantastic. You heard it directly from Marlee Rae. And then the other thing I would just add to that is make sure you get a good editor. And you need a professional editor, someone who is going to critique your work, who's not going to take you off course, but who will keep you on course, who will help you identify your strengths, perhaps your weaknesses, some things that you can add to it. And it's so important, not only content editing, but also line editing and proofreading to make sure there's no errors. So that's just one thing I want to add. And next week's show, I'm going to have another writing coach on. So myself as a ghostwriter, publisher, and writing coach, I'm going to have another writing coach on. Her name is Bonnie Denneker, and we're going to talk about the business of writing and how we coach people who are wanting to write books. And I will say that I typically have worked with nonfiction. My mind just doesn't work in the fantasy way. I mean, I'm just not, I'm just too practical, a little too whatever, but I do love reading it. But what I love about your books, and I'm not going to mention the lady's name, okay? But there was a lady who came on with a 4-letter name, and she came across the scene a few years ago, and I tried to read one of her books. And while it was salacious in one sense, it was kind of hard to read because it wasn't very well written. And it bothered me. And I was like, I can't even read this because of the way it's written. You know what I mean? And so what I love is that, your writing is a step above. Your writing is just such quality work, and it's informative, and it does make you blush a little bit, and it does make you want to keep going. So I just want to say that I'm so excited about your career as a writer. And and Narita Baker Bradford says steamy in real life too. Look, when she finished the first one, she wrote me a whole feedback about it on my text. It was late at night, and she was like, I just finished it, blah blah blah. I was like, I know. So I love it. Okay. Well, yes, you're welcome. So is there anything that you would like to share before we end the interview?
I don't think so. Am I missing something?
What? No, I just want to make sure I asked you all the questions and you were able to say what you wanted to say. That's all.
I think so. Yeah, I was like, did I miss something? But no. I think we covered just about everything. The new book will definitely be out, like I said, sometime next month. Okay. And if you want to purchase the books, or they also, just to let you know, they are ebooks as well as a physical copy of the book. So you can do either or. So for people who prefer, a Kindle book or something like that. So
okay. And I want to remind you all, you can go to Marlee Rae, spelled the way it is on the screen, and on Facebook to find her there. Marlee Rae Writes on Instagram, and then Marlee Rae Reads and Writes.com is her website, and all of her books are available on Amazon. Yes. Marlee Rae, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for all the energy and all of your talent and everything that you've shared with us in these books. And I'm looking forward to Ride and the next books to follow.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I'm gonna ask you to wait for me. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room, and then I'm gonna have a final thought. Okay. Thank you. If you didn't know, people typically read to be informed or to be entertained. Those of us who like to be informed, awesome, great. But those who like to be entertained, if you're looking for entertainment, Marlee Rae is it. Her contemporary romance novels featuring Black characters are amazing. Her books are truly amazing. And I would encourage you to not only read them, read each of them, give her feedback, talk about them, because one of the things that happens is books become popular because readers talk about them, and it makes such a difference. I also want to encourage you in your life. If you're going through something, read. If you're going through something, write, get it out, express yourself. Some of the things, the places that I went in my life before I ever stepped foot on a plane were through what I saw on television and what I read in books. And I want to encourage you to have as many adventures as possible. You can stay out of trouble. It'll save you a lot of money, and you can learn a lot if you read. So I want to thank you so much for watching the Authentic Joe Show today. And also, please catch us next week where book coaches will be talking about the business of books and writing with Bonnie Daniker and me, myself, Jolena Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you watched it on the live broadcast, we'll see you next week. And if you're watching on the replay, thank you so much. Please like and please share. We'll see you next week on the Authentic Joe Show.